Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there. This is your co-host. My name is Ben Dickerson, lover of all types of football, NFL, Canadian, you name it. I love it. All the way down to flag football, little league, and so on and so forth. If it's football, I love it, and we're ready to talk about it.
All right, I get the feeling you love football there, man. Okay, yeah, I think that came across quite clearly. I'm in the same wagon. I think you're a little more maniacal than I, or at least in a different way, you know. So we kind of approach football somewhat different, and that hopefully that's what makes the show good. So Ben, it is July 8th, 2020. All of the leagues are trying to figure out how they're going to start and what their protocols are going to be. So I know that you, as a coach for a team, a flag team, you're planning on going down to a tournament and doing some traveling and things of that nature. So how are those logistics working out in your particular situation? How are you prioritizing going on the trip, going there in an amateur status in the face of a lot of pro teams that are questioning whether they're going to go back and play on a professional big money status with testing, incorporated into their protocols?
Wow, that's a tough question. I was hoping we weren't going to talk about this particular subject, but it's okay. Yeah, we're going to a flag football tournament. It's the East Coast Nationals. It's going to be in Richmond, Virginia. Last time I checked, which was probably at the end of last week, Richmond's numbers had been pretty good from the middle to the end of June and going into July. In fact, I think Virginia's doing relatively well in comparison to a lot of other states, but Richmond in particular only had a few new cases. I haven't looked at it today. I'll look at it again before we leave. However, I do realize also that we're not just talking about Richmond. We're talking about teams that are traveling from other parts of the country. I know, looking at the bracket that we're playing in, I believe we're going to be playing teams from the Washington, D.C. area, another team from Philadelphia, teams from Buffalo, New York, so on and so forth. So what I'm going to attempt to do is make sure that I make it very clear to my players that they bring gloves and masks with them, because obviously while we're there, there are going to be situations where you're not going to be able to social distance. If you have to go in a store, you may not be allowed to go into the store without a mask. So make sure that you have one, because we're going to have to go and buy things. We're going to have to go. We're obviously not going to eat in restaurants, but you may have to go to a restaurant to pick food up. You need a mask for that. Make sure you bring a disinfectant spray, Lysol, or I don't know if we're allowed to do brand names on this show, but you know what I'm talking about, the kind that you can use when you go in and spray up your hotel room, and make sure you spray your bed, which in fact my wife and I have been doing for many, many, many years before this pandemic was even heard of, anytime we went out of town. So it's a habit for me. Of course, we were more worried about bacterial germs back then as opposed to viral germs, but same difference.
My sister likes to spray the bed with Lysol to deal with potential bed bugs.
You know what? I never really had bed bugs, so I don't know if Lysol and Clorox and all that stuff, if they actually kill bed bugs or not. I assume that they would give them a heck of a lot for their money.
I don't know if they kill them. An exterminator friend of hers told her that to do that, so it might be just a thing where it riles them up or whatever if they're there.
Yeah, it probably runs them off. It ain't going to kill them.
I've only dealt with that issue once in my life, and of all the states, it was Virginia.
Ah,
Down in
thanks.
Virginia Beach. Yeah, it was horrifying, man.
Oh, Virginia Beach.
Yeah, the Virginia Beach Hotel. And when we reported it to the person at the front desk, they were like so well, okay, look, just take your stuff downstairs. We got dryers. They were very nonchalant about it. Later, I did talk to our attorneys, and they basically were telling us like they've got the laws set up in such a way that it's really difficult to sue them for bed bugs. So
Absolutely.
that's probably, excuse me, why they were so relaxed, because that was one thing they weren't too worried about,
Yeah.
and
I
so
mean, if they were going to be worried at all, that would be that someone has discovered that the bed bugs are there and they may spread, which could cause them problems. But let's face it, they could keep the place clean as a whistle, and one person can bring them from home, and bam, they're there. And
they're
then at
there.
that
Yeah,
point,
absolutely.
yeah,
But like you said, bacteria was our previous main concern.
right now it's
When you go
viral.
in and spray and clean up when you're traveling like that, for
Yeah,
tournaments, and we were doing it for conventions and stuff like that,
yeah.
and vacation. So you guys are staying at a hotel,
Yes.
okay? And so on a scale of low, medium, and high, if you're looking at your risk, you would rank it, I'm assuming, then low at this point.
I don't know, man. I don't work for the CDC. I don't know. All I can do is ask the guys to be careful and take precautionary measures. Um, we've been practicing. We try to be leery of too much handshaking and hugging. We try to be leery of not getting too close to each other's faces when speaking.
No
Uh,
chest bumping.
no, that's not a good idea, because when you chest pump, you exhale air. And when you exhale air at a close range,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So you gotta do the fancy one they do where they jump and they turn their backs to each other.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah, you got to be real careful now. In fact, at first I didn't really think about that, but then I was reading some protocols that the city's going to come out with for when because they're almost in the green phase now, or we're like in the beginning of the green phase in Philadelphia. So once league play and team play is actually authorized for Department of Recreation, they're going to have guidelines, and that was one of them. So, but for the most part, most of the guys on the team are pretty responsible. They all have jobs, and they wear their masks when they're on the street or have to go to the store or shop, or they may have to wear them at work. Some of them are essential workers, so they're used to wearing them.
They
It's
don't
not
wear them
like
when they play, though, do they?
no, they don't wear them when they play. So that's why I can't say, because that there's still a risk.
Yeah.
Still
At
a
least
risk.
they're outdoors, so they don't have that risk of the aerosol as much because
As
they're
much.
outdoors.
Right. We're outdoors and we're moving. So that I would say that may lower the risk some, but I can't say I
Do,
can't
do
be.
you social distance on the sideline? Do you have your players like, look, because you're on one team on one sideline. Do your
Yeah, well,
players social distance among themselves or not?
it's funny. Players on the sideline. First of all, we carry about 25 guys. So if you got 8 guys on the field, what's that?
17?
17 guys on the sideline, okay? So then if the offense just came off, then you got at least 6 or 7 of them either sitting on the bench looking for some water or talking to their girlfriend. And then who's left? You know what I mean? It's not that hard. It's not an NFL sideline where there's 53 people and 20
Okay.
coaches.
But I
Yeah,
mean, a lot of times when you come out, then you got one set of seats. You know what I mean? Or you don't have any
yeah,
seats,
well,
you know?
not everybody sits down. We don't worry about that too much.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't, I can't, I got a friend and I don't want to go too far with this. I got a friend who's into this conspiracy theory thing about COVID, and he's on Facebook all the time. And he's like, what about this? What about that? Oh, look, they said this many people died yesterday. Now they're saying it was this many. And he's on and on and on. I had to send him the serenity prayer. I mean, the serenity prayer. God, give me the strength to, like, stuff I can't do nothing about. Like, let me be chill on that.
Well, the only choice that you have would be not to go. So, what is it about about playing the game and going to a tournament that makes you feel that it's so important that whatever risk level it is, you still want to do it?
I don't, you're making this really tough on me, man.
This
It's
is the
important.
Ben and Barry on a football show.
It's important because some people aren't going to understand this, but I guess everybody goes through that
Uh-huh.
makes any kind of public proclamation during this time, be it Instagram or what we're doing. But it's important to us because traveling is part of the makeup of our team. It's something that our team, the Philly Noles, basically started in our league. We were the first to actually do it. And then we kind of got away from it as the team changed over from some of the other guys retiring and newer guys coming in. And now I feel like we're experienced enough to hit the road again. And this is something we want to do because ultimately we want to position ourselves as well as possible to do damage when we go to Florida in January in the national championships. So if you're going to play in a national championship tournament, you have to play in some regional tournaments first, if for no other reason than to give the players a chance to go through a tournament format so there's no surprises and they understand what it is that they're up against. You might have to play 2 or 3 games in one day, okay? I know guys, they play a game in the PTTFL, they have a couple of beers, and they're ready to go home and go to bed. They're wasted.
I think that was me, wasn't it?
That probably was you. So, if you have to play, let's say you first day, you go out, you play your first game, you win. You may get an hour rest, and then you have to play again. I have had teams in tournaments where we had to play, well, we didn't have to. We chose to play 2 different styles of ball in the same tournament. We had a squad that was close to 30-some guys, and we thought that we could handle it. And in fact, we actually did. We played 8-man and 9-man. So there were times where we had to play a game, finish the game, go to the sideline, grab our bags, throw them over our shoulders, and walk from that field over to another field on the other side of the park, drop our bags down, ref blows the whistle, we go out for the coin toss, play that game, finish that game, grab our bags, walk back across the park to another field, maybe if we're lucky, get 5 or 10 minutes rest and play again. So that's tournament life. And it's going to be, it's going to be between 90 and 93 degrees in Richmond this weekend, with a 40% chance of rain on Saturday and a 20% chance of rain on Sunday, which isn't bad as far as the rain is concerned. And rain with that kind of heat is not a big deal. In fact, that might even be good as far as the, virus thing is
down
concerned.
a little bit.
Right. It goes down a little bit. And they have a couple of turf fields. So if we advance and go into Sunday and they move us to the turf fields, if it's 93 degrees, it's going to be 100 degrees on the turf field. So, but anyway.
All right, last question. The organizer of the tournament.
Yes.
First, who is that, and what do they have to say about any of the scenario relative to COVID and anything of that nature? Do they have any extra guidelines, rules, or?
Well, I tell you what, it's the UFFL is the sanctioning body. The dates for the tournament had already been confirmed back last year, I believe. So since this has happened, they've been in touch with the local government so that the local government could tell them, no, you better shut it down, postpone it, cancel it, or whatever. Or we feel that because of what's going on and where you guys are going to be, that you should be okay. And they gave them the green light.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
This isn't like we're just going out and taking over a park and just playing on it. Yeah, this They've gone through the local government.
Well, that's interesting. That's good information. That's good information. All right. So, Noles in the tournament. I'll say it early. You can say it later. Go Noles.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go to our first subject matter for the day. Just a quick review. Last week we talked about I think it's Miss, or is it Mrs. Jamel Hill? She's single, isn't she?
I believe she is single.
Oh, shucks, fella. She's still on the market. And we talked a little bit about her last week. Didn't know if you had anything else that you wanted to mention about her before we move on.
Just that a question had come up during our discussion as to who she was a fan of. I know she's, being a sports celebrity, almost you could call her, sports commentator / interviewer / whatever. A lot of people who back in the day didn't like to be real profound about their sport, their fandom, that seems to be out the window now. Everybody's real comfortable with saying, I'm a fan of this team, I'm a fan of that team. And we were just wondering, who was she a fan of? I assumed that she was a Chicago Bulls fan. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I think she's from Detroit. Because I think I said last week I thought she was from Chicago. But anyway, regardless of that.
No, I think you actually did say Detroit last week.
Did I? Okay. I'm pretty sure she's from Detroit. But, right. Because I said I thought she was a Bad Boy Pistons fan. However, when it came to football, neither of us was sure. You have now come up with a little something, and we don't want to say it's clear-cut evidence, but there seems to be a picture that shows her sitting somewhere, giving an interview with a San Francisco 49ers helmet in the background. I can think of no other reason why she would have a 49ers helmet in the background on a bookshelf unless she was, in fact, a Niners fan. So until I find out different, that's what I'm going to suspect.
Well, as part of the faithful family, Jamel, always good to lock arms with the faithful. You know what I'm saying? And if your mistake that she could possibly not be a Pistons fan and be a Bulls fan too, that would be 2 out of 2 for us, Jamel. So Ben might have been your bigger fan before, but I think I'm stepping up above him on the fandom level for Jamel Hill here as we look forward to potentially adding the Bulls and the Niners both together. I don't expect that she's going to be a Yankee fan, but you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. What we do know is she's not a Giants fan, and I doubt that she's a Sixers fan. So
there you go. There you go. All right. Next up, what do we got here? Going back to, this is the Ben and Barry Facebook page that we basically are sharing with everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to the Washington team that needs to change their name and all of the things that are going on with them as of right now. So apparently, the pressure is now on. You've got minority owners who are looking to sell. Ron Rivera, the coach, is claiming that he's working with him on a new name. We even posted a link on the history of the name, which you said you found a little complicated to read. But the funny thing about that article is you always say that that the NFL is a copycat league. Well, that whole story about the name is all copycat stuff. And mainly it was football copycatting from baseball.
Yeah, but that happened a lot. That happened a lot in other cities too.
So that name had some history. I think one of the names that came up in the article as a coach was Jim Thorpe, who was one of the, historical figures in football, but an indigenous American Indian. And so he was in that phase when they were making, doing some of these names. And I can imagine that the consciousness of the country at that time being so much different than it is today, it wasn't so much of a controversy, or if it was a controversy to that small minority of people, and they weren't really speaking out heavily against it. But today, we're like, all of this stuff got to go. It's been around long enough. All these symbols, all of these little knocks, things of that nature that are just built in systemically, all that's got to change. And that seems to be, what's going on. The money now, it's the money who's making moves, advertisers, FedEx, the who has the naming rights for the field, they're about getting that name changed. And then you got some pushback from stockholders of companies that do business with them. So like, I think Pepsi, and I own stock in Pepsi. So, when your shareholders are coming at the company and saying, you can't be doing business with these guys if they're going to act like this. You know what I mean? So that movement is going well beyond us and our little piece that we've been putting out for well over, how long has it been? A year at least?
It's been more than a year. I believe it's been at least the last 2 years we've been calling them the Washington team that needs to change their name. And we did have a show where we kind of talked about it and tried to make it clear, even when it didn't seem to be a big deal nationally, that pretty much year after year after year, I can't say exactly when it started, but year after year after year, and it's been multiple years, there have been some Native Americans who have protested outside of the stadium and contacted the owner about changing the team's name. Like you said, unfortunately, the groups have probably been small. They've probably been pretty much ignored or put off, and they didn't have a lot of power behind them. But we knew that it was happening, and we were with them from the start, and we tried our best not to use that name. And we've been doing that for at least a year and a half to 2 years. People probably thought it sounded weird. Well, I wonder why they keep on saying, I mean, I know why they're saying it, but it sounds weird when they say, well, guess what? Hopefully soon we won't have to say it anymore because it won't be around anymore.
There's the new conversation is, well, what would the new name be?
I've only seen one real serious suggestion, and I doubt if they'll go with it.
That the one with the pilots?
Yes, the Red Tails.
Red Tail.
Which basically is the Tuskegee Airmen.
That would be like going from one extreme to the other for Daniel Snyder.
Yeah, that would be tough on Daniel Snyder. I think his history kind of makes me feel like he's probably going, yeah, right. They'll come up with something.
Kind of reminds me of what happened with the Harriet Tubman on the $20 conversation. You know what I mean? It's like it got going, and then it got shelved. So I don't think that Red Wings will happen. I have no suggestions for them. Again, Ron Rivera is supposed to be working on a new name. Being that he is of Hispanic origin, when that automatically connects you into the Native American, Indigenous American ancestry. So I was surprised when he went there, and that didn't seem to be an issue. And
it may have been.
Well, he signed that contract, so it didn't stop me signing the contract.
Yeah, the money's the most important thing, but I'm not going to say that maybe he didn't, maybe mention it.
I don't know. You got a point. He might have came in and said, "Look, I'm gonna sign this contract, but I'm just letting you know I ain't happy with the name." I don't know.
Right. And if there's an uproar about it, don't expect me to come out and be on your side 100%, that's going to be really tough for me.
That's a serious conversation when you're trying to sign, because he got a nice contract. I forget what he got, but it was a pretty good contract. But in any event, I had posted a couple times again, you know, with all of the different athletes and sports figures who are speaking out, hadn't heard much from the players of the Washington team that needs to change their name. So, you know, I'm always listening for that. Even though some of them did talk about kneeling and things of that nature, they hadn't necessarily grabbed hold to that particular cause on the player level, you know. So, okay, you know, it is what it is. You know, it's like just waiting for Dak to speak out relative to the whole Black Lives Matter situation, relative to even his owner and that the stand that he took initially. So they went through a little thing last year too. It took the president sticking his nose in for the Cowboys owner to go ahead and link arms and take a knee just to say to the president, you can't be doing that. But relative to the original Kaepernick reason and conversation, he wasn't, the owner of the Cowboys wasn't on board either. So, all right. All right, Ben. So next up, we have another announcement relative to Colin Kaepernick. He signed one agreement to do some video type, multimedia type stuff. And then he signed another agreement with Disney. He also has I think a 5-part documentary that's coming out. Someone else is doing that on his life. So, you know, as far as we're concerned, all of these accolades and all of this recognition, you know, he's well deserved, no doubt about it. But the question is, what effect will it have on the comeback? Because now people are actually talking about a comeback. You know what I mean? It's like, really? So what do you got? What do you got here?
All I got is, once again, the question is, does he really want to play? First of all those workout videos we used to see, they kind of stopped. Unless I'm missing something. I'm not on his Instagram, so I don't know what he's putting out there lately. But I haven't seen anything. There was a lot of talk about, well, there was talk from particular teams as far as coaches saying, I wouldn't mind bringing him in for a workout. I don't have anything against bringing him in for a workout. We might bring him in for a workout, but still nothing really definitive. Not even news of any real talks or anything. And I don't know if that's on his part or if they just talked about it team-wise or organization-wise and never actually reached out to him. So we're kind of at a standstill right now as far as the comeback is concerned. But I'm pretty sure, or I'm hopeful that these contracts he's signing to do documentaries and shows and lend his time and expertise to these other ventures that he's getting into. I hope that somewhere in the clause, somewhere in these contracts, he's laid out some clauses that, hey, if I get a call from an NFL team and I get a contract, then I'm going to be balling. So we're going to have to, you know, schedule my other things around that. I would hate for somebody to actually call him in for a tryout and say, hey, yeah, let's talk contract. And he say, well, I can't because I got to make a video. I mean, I thought he wanted to play football. So we'll see.
Well, okay. Yeah, we will see. I did not think he wanted to play football. I haven't thought that in a while because Could have played football. There's a lot of football playing going on in the world if you just want to play the game. And like I said, you guys play, you don't get paid for it. It's just an insane drive to play the game, and so, I always thought he should have went to Canada, go up there, become a star, show them what they're missing, run around, do your capital thing.
Warren Moon did it.
Warren Moon did it, then came back, and because it's about football, and my thing is the concentration level that it takes to be a quarterback. We're not just talking about a D-back or somebody that, where you could just say, just rush the quarterback,
No, it's yeah, I don't know how much people out there watch Canadian football, but when the games are on, you should watch them. First of all, they're very exciting. Second of all, some of the rules are just a little bit different, just enough to make it interesting. The gigantic end zones, I love that. I think that's crazy. You know what I mean? But it's professional football. If you go man for man down the roster, the skill levels might not quite be exactly the same as your basic NFL roster, but it's pretty good. It's better than the XFL, that's for sure. And just like we're saying it can make you, it can break you too. Johnny Manziel was a #1 draft pick. You can say what you want about him and how he treated his life and his career. He went up there and he was a total failure. He couldn't hang. Now people say, well, he was probably up there drinking and running around, and he probably doomed his own self. If he was that doggone good, he'd have made a little bit of noise. He made zero noise.
Yeah, I mean, guys hang out, they party, they do all of that stuff, and they show up. And Lawrence Taylor did it.
And they still ball out, right? Either you got it or you don't. Either you got it or you don't. And let's face it, he didn't go up there because he's like, I like living in Canada. He went up there to try to rebuild his career so he could get back in the NFL. And he couldn't do it. So again, like you said, if Kaepernick was serious about playing and didn't want to waste, I shouldn't use the word waste because a lot went on with him in the last few years, but give up chances or opportunities to get back into the game and back into the NFL as quickly as possible, I agree with you. That should have been the route. And he chose not to.
I wouldn't be mad at him for saying, just like many of the athletes who have taken on the cause and they're like, I'm not playing this year because I'm with the cause. If that's where you stand, awesome. He won't say that though. He keeps kind of leaving it out there.
Well, it won't have the same impact. It won't have the same impact as a Maya Moore, who was at the top of her game and making as much money as a WNBA player can make, and just saying, I got to stop because I want to devote all my time to getting this man out of prison who's in there unjustly and grinding for this dude for a couple of years and getting him out.
Yeah, that was amazing.
You want to talk about Black Lives Matter? Yo, she went all in. That's real right there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So but it would just remove that conversation.
Well, that's true.
You know what I mean? It's like, now is the NFL, are they still blackballing you? Because once it goes from they're blackballing you to, everybody saying, okay, come on, and then you don't do anything.
Right.
Now it's like, were you really ever serious in the first place?
And if you really gonna do it, now is the time to do it. I mean, even the goofball in the White House said, oh yeah, you should be allowed if he's good enough. As soon as I heard that, I'd be like, yo, agent, get on the phone. Get me in a camp. But see, again, with the pandemic, it's not as easy, but still, I'd be like.
That's like the ultimate challenge, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Get me in a camp. I'm taking somebody's job.
Yeah. Just make a team. I just want to see him make a team. Just make the team. He can't be any worse than a backup.
No doubt.
He's far better than most of the backups in the league, and he's far better than some of the starters.
Well,
Well,
at least he was, and the question is, again, as long as he can focus on what he needs to focus on the football field as the leader of the team, as the guy who's out there executing the plays, who's reading the defenses, who's not throwing your receiver into a zone where he's getting blasted,
well, I mean, it's going to take work.
Or anything like that. That's what I'm
He
talking about.
he would have to put in. He would have to put in a lot of work to get, because he wasn't perfect. When he was good, he wasn't perfect.
Right.
And I know nobody's perfect, but I mean, even when he was good and he was a threat, and he took his team to the Super Bowl, he still had a lot of stuff to work on, and we were looking forward to his career progressing. And how good can this guy get? You know what I mean? He was Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson, and we were all going like, "Oh, I can't wait till next year." So it would require some work. But again, the question is, do you really want to do this? Do you really want to put in the work that it's going to take to make you a viable quarterback option for an NFL team? Because if you're a backup, you got to be a viable option that's ready to go at all times.
Market realities in the NFL are stark right now, in that you've got one MVP quarterback who just signed a 10-year deal. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. That looks to be worth $500 million. And another MVP quarterback who fundamentally signed for the minimum with an incentive-laden contract. And so the one who signed for the minimum, we're going to talk about him also, but that's your range as far as Kaepernick's type of contract. The question was he willing to come in as a backup? He told the AFFLs, I think it was AFL, whatever, when they offered, or they invited him in, that he wanted $20 million when they were paying pretty much a flat salary of $200,000 to everybody in the league. So,
and he knew that.
So if you say,
so instead of just saying no,
right, exactly. So that made it a question mark there. So would he be willing to come in and be a backup, a second or a third stringer on any particular NFL team? How would he handle that? Cam is struggling with that. We'll talk a little bit about that, because he's Cam, and you're not supposed to just go in and be satisfied, to be a backup. Absolutely. That's always supposed to be a competitive situation. So, that's what we would expect. Okay, yeah, you're going to come in, but they're supposed to feel that heat coming from you, in practice, and everything. So, okay, all right, enough of that for right now. Okay, Mr. Dickerson, big news this week. The contract of contracts. A man of either, I don't know if you would call him mixed race or a black man. In America, your definition of black only requires a minuscule amount of mixture in the blood, and you're black. So a black man is now the richest athlete, I guess, in history. He got the biggest contract
in organized professional sports history.
And one of the things that we talked about early on, we posed the question, could Mahomes be the first $50 million per year NFL player? And it would take him to ride out the full 10 years to actually get that, or to renegotiate his contract. But when you're looking at a fully completed contract worth over $500,000, that puts him right up in that category. So it came a little differently than what we were thinking, I was thinking more, well, there's going to be revenue changes and the cap is going to grow. And so, he'll get a contract and somewhere in there it'll say 50 million. Either that or just guarantee him 50 million like they did Kirk Cousins with his 83 million. But long story short, this contract had some real creative structure to it. So we can go into that a little bit, but before we do, I just give you a chance to see if you had any comments on it in general.
When you say it's really creative, I would agree with that 100%. It is very creative. And I believe that the Chiefs organization, there's another team that may need to change their name too, by the way, but I digress.
At the very least, I just quickly, since you mentioned it, at least a chief is considered a leader.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. I got you. You're
very
right.
least, I give them that. Go ahead.
I think that the organization was very happy when he agreed to such a long-term deal. It's actually he actually had 2 years left on his rookie contract, so it's a 10-year extension that they added to that. Also, they're very lucky that he's not a greedy guy. I mean, he and his agent put their heads together, I'm sure, and he let it be known that although he wants to make money and although he believes he's the face of that team and the future of that team, if not also the face of the NFL for some years to come, and he would want to be compensated for that, that he also realizes that in order to keep winning and to be at the top of the heap for the length of that contract, he would have to leave some flexibility for the team to be able to sign other players, to re-sign some players that are still young and are on the team now, to bring in free agents, whatever it takes over the next few years and going into the future. So he realized that. So this is not an all or nothing, I'm breaking the bank contract. As big as the numbers are, they've worked it out so that it's comfortable for both parties involved.
I'm reading an article here, and they're looking at comparing Mahomes to Wentz, Goff, Newton, and Luck in terms of the amount of salary cap hit. And he actually is right in range. On the lower end, I believe it's Wentz is at 13.7%. On the higher end, you had Luck when they gave him his contract was 14.9%. And Mahomes is only 15.4%.
See, that's good for the team.
That's great for the team. That's great for the team. And, you're right. Greed, it's funny trying to balance greed with knowing your value.
Right.
And he knows he has a good idea of his value. And then there's enough flexibility that if the money changes drastically,
he can renegotiate.
He can renegotiate, he can. I can't imagine what the open market for him would look like, but I can imagine it'd be hot. It'd be a hot market. So, we talked a little bit about some of the things that were in his contract. One of the things they talked about was this guarantee mechanism. Now, there's all types of guarantees that they put in the contract. A lot of times they just guarantee you a lump sum of money up front, and things of that nature. But this guarantee mechanism looked to have more to do with setting the contract up in such a way that the NFL or the Chiefs will have to commit to him on a particular day, and then that commitment is going to actually lock them in for more like 2 years. So they will commit to him, let's say in 2021 by a certain day, and by doing, and when they do that, they automatically lock him in for 2023. So he's got like a 1 to 2 year forward looking guarantee arrangement that runs all the way through this contract. And so there's a little bit of flexibility built in for both of the teams. But like you said, they always have the option of saying we need to renegotiate this contract. And I'm sure that at some point that's going to kick in also. It's an interesting time, especially that he's not beating the Chiefs up for a lot of money this year, because in the middle of a COVID epidemic, revenues are unknown. You know, this will
Right.
be the first year where they might have to go with nobody in the stands, everything fully televised. And
Right.
so those rights are going to be negotiated and looked at very carefully, but he's not putting them under a lot of financial stress, you know, right now to pay him while they're still, you know, working their way through the realities of our new pandemic lifestyle. So, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Mahomes. You know, congratulations, all the best, and you know, I'm looking forward to beating you next time in the Super Bowl.
We could in fact see that rematch. I mean, that's a viable situation. I would think that could actually happen. Something else interesting about the contract, and you know, these contracts can be very complicated, obviously, when you're talking about this much money. But just to give people an idea of some of the things that go into this, he's got $141.4 million of this contract guaranteed. And within that, you know, you hear about signing bonuses, right? So you negotiate a contract, you sign the contract, and then you get a signing bonus, and it's usually a nice lump sum of money, and they write you a check, and you go to the bank, and boom, bang, boom. Okay, his signing bonus, again, team friendly, is large, but it's been split up. Split up over 3 years. So 3 years in a row, he will get a chunk of his signing bonus, and all that money is guaranteed, regardless of what happens to him. Whatever that percentage of that third and that third and that third, he's going to get them. It's just that it's like deferred, okay? But it is still guaranteed. Yes, split signing bonus over 3 years. He's got $25 million also in incentives. So again, when we say, you know, he's got a $503 million contract, and over the next 12 years, he's going to make $503 million. He might not. You know, he can possibly, but who's to say he'll still be playing in 12 years? That's why, even though they split up some of the guaranteed money, it's still on the front end, because after 8 years, he might retire. He could get injured. Things could happen, you know? So he's making sure that he's going to get a good amount of money early on in the contract. But $25 million in incentives, although he'll probably hit most of them, and I don't know what they are, but there's a chance that he won't hit them. If he doesn't hit them, that's money he won't make. Not that that's a big deal, because his base salary is more than enough, you know. But in order to get closer to that total at the end, he's going to have incentives. He might have $5 million if you lead the league in touchdowns, $10 million if you throw less interceptions than anybody else. Everybody's got a Pro Bowl incentive, you know. $2 million if you make the Pro Bowl, blah blah blah. So lead the league in yards, so on and so forth. If he hits those, tack that money on. If he doesn't, that's a little small subtraction they can make. So it's interesting. It's extremely interesting.
2024, 2025, you got some deals like Wentz's and Goff's that'll be ending and they'll be renegotiating for new contracts. They're looking at the cap potentially going up to 300 million from just under 200 million. So yeah, a lot of variables will be kicking in over that time period. You know, if he wins another Super Bowl, what would that do to his legacy? And you know, if he doesn't win another Super Bowl, what would that do to his legacy? So, you know, and then you've got contracts like Burrell's, who just signed with the with Cleveland, right? Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
You're right.
Cincinnati.
Right. So Cincinnati, I'm sorry. So, you know, you bring in, you know, a quarterback like that who potentially could be a top quarterback, you know. He's supposedly NFL ready, so he might come in and do a few things in his first few years, and all of a sudden that whole level of goes up, you know. And then that all he has to do is ride the wave, the franchise wave.
Yeah, I mean,
Average quarterback.
Again, I thought the Cowboys would probably rather sign him to the cap, to the franchise tag, but I'm not so sure that was the best idea.
I think they still have until July 15th.
Right, but I still haven't heard anything about them negotiating in good faith. You know, he's looking at this, and here's the crazy thing. The Cowboys would rather do something like the Chiefs did with Mahomes. It's Dak that's saying no, no, no. 3 or 4 years tops, because he wants to maximize himself while he still is in his prime and make his big hit that way. You know, Mahomes has just decided, this is where I want to be. Give me all my security now. Hey, it's a personal decision. That's all.
All right. We'll leave it at that. All right, Ben. So start saying, Cam.
Whoa, Cam. Let's go, baby.
Well, wait, hold it. I'm sorry. Did I just bring up Dak again?
Joke of the week.
$1 billion. I want $1 billion. All right. I don't know what I just did with the Cam. Here he is. Let's skip over all of this mess. Cam, bam. 1 year incentive-laden contract with the Patriots of all people. And what was really hilarious, Ben, I'm going to try to scroll up real quick because I posted this. Here it is. Apparently him and Edelman on Instagram joking about playbook.
He said, this ish, I'll say ish, this ish is calculus. Is that what he said? Oh, snap. Him came in all confident. Yeah, let me see that playbook, yo. What the?
We said he was going to come out a different quarterback after spending a year with the Patriots.
Absolutely. There was no doubt about that, but this is the beginning of it right here.
He picks up this calculus, man. He might be looking at a Mahomes contract, at least a 5-year deal.
I will say this. Nobody really accused Cam of being a dummy. He's a smart guy. And he's been in a lot of football systems over his career. He went to a couple junior colleges. He went to Notre Dame. People forget he went to Notre Dame. He went to Florida. He was in a lot of different college systems before settling into the Panthers in the NFL. So he's been around a lot of coaches. He's seen a lot of stuff. So I think he'll handle it with no problem.
We talked about Stidham. He's getting disrespected left and right in the media. It's like people are just saying, there's no way in the world Stidham can compete against Cam. Cam will be the starter come week 1. And with the ish being calculus, and Stidham sitting there, he's been studying this calculus now for 2 years. You know,
He's already got his degree.
he already got his degree in that, and him and Belichick are on nickname terms at this particular point. So yeah, Cam comes in with all of the background and all the success that he has. All we can say with Stidham is there's a really big question mark, but right above that question mark is a stamp of approval from Belichick, or at least that's what he said. Now again, Belichick is known for, you know, keeping things under wraps and not letting you know what he's going to do. He's not giving away any technical or strategic information at all. So we don't exactly know, but from what we had seen and what we had heard, he was looking, you know, thinking highly of Stidham. So at this particular point, at the very least, I think it's a 50-50 shot that Stidham will be starting, and you know will play a good portion of the season unless Cam really starts to show off a little bit in terms of picking up on some of that calculus, or at least some of the algebra of it.
These media people are funny, man. They go from one extreme to the other. There was some time there when Cam was, you know, oft injured and got released by the Panthers, and nobody knew if anybody was going to pick him up. And well, we're sure somebody will pick him up, but you know, does he fit this scheme? Does he fit that scheme? And you know, he's got the shoulder and his foot, and we don't know if he's going to be the same Cam. And then all of a sudden, the Patriots pick him up, and they're like, "Oh, Stidham don't have a chance." What? First of all, you really don't even have a whole lot to compare the two, because you can't give Stidham the eye test because there's no camp you can go to watch him in practice, and he hardly has any game footage. So how are you going to say, oh yeah, he doesn't have much arm strength, we don't like his release point on his throw? You don't have any of that. So how are you going to just anoint Cam as a starter? If I'm Bill Belichick and I get Cam Newton, I'm thinking, if I get the old Cam, and I mean old Cam before the shoulder and the Lens Frank injury in his foot, and a hungry Cam, let's face it, the guy signed a $1.05 million veterans minimum contract. So I think I got the hungry part pretty much locked up. So now it's just a matter of how well this guy can actually perform, and if the injuries are completely healed and he can play over and above that. If I get that Cam and he really buys in, I already know Stidham is a good backup that I believe in, and I'm okay. If I get the Cam and he comes in, he struggles with the playbook a little bit, or his throwing motion is off, and it might take him to midseason to get in the kind of shape that we really want him to, how can I be mad at having Cam Newton on my bench as my second string? It's a win-win for Belichick. It ain't spend any money. Only half of the 1.05 is guaranteed. $550,000 is guaranteed. And the rest he has to make on incentives. $7.5 million with a roster bonuses and incentives. That's the most he can make.
Did you say 7 million?
7.5 million is the most he can make.
So he can make up to 7 million. I didn't think he could even get that far in this contract.
Yes, he can. And again, I think he felt a lot better about signing for the veteran minimum when he knew that it was going to be incentivized, and he's betting on himself. He feels like he's going to be able to get this. They might want to give him $1 million or $2 million if he wins the starting job, another $1 million if he's starting by so-and-so, another $1 million if he scores throws for X number of touchdowns, another $1 million if he runs for X number of touchdowns, another $1 million for if he goes all season without getting injured. Again, if he makes the Pro Bowl, this, that, and the other. So he can make up to 7.5.
Wow, I didn't know that. Well, he it definitely made it interesting in the AFC East, I believe that is. Uh, the presumed newcomers, the Buffalo Bills, looked like they were going to be in the lead, for that division, and the Jets. I think the Jets. I don't know. I don't trust their
I
coach.
believe the Jets will be improved.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know about that coach. I got questions. They won't. They probably won't have their safety. He'll be gone. I think he wants to be a cowboy. Uh,
That doesn't necessarily mean he'll be gone.
no, that's true, but I don't think he wants to be there.
Yeah, he may not want to be there, but he's under contract and they need him. He's not going to get out of there. He's going to have to pull a Barkley or something to get out of there. Barkley's the only one I know could get out of a contract anytime he wanted to.
Well, that might be true, but it definitely changes the landscape of the AFC East right now, or makes the threat of the Patriots, look a lot more real than what it looked, at the beginning of the season before the Cam Newton signing. So never underestimate what Belichick has in that deck of cards that he's looking at, because he's not going to let you know anything. He's not going to give any facial expressions in the poker game there. So, all right. All right, Ben, one of the headlines that popped up this week had to do with Eagle wide receiver Desean Jackson. Desean Jackson decided to quote Hitler and talking about whatever he was talking about. And it came off as anti-Semitic, which is not surprising if you're quoting Hitler. And then he put out a video, an apology video. In addition to the apology video, the Eagles came out with a statement, and in their statement, they pretty much let him know that he was not that was not appreciated, what he said, and that and the interesting thing is he kept talking about trying to enlighten people. But if you're quoting Hitler and you're not understanding what you're quoting, to use the word enlighten as if you're going to be the teacher, I just thought was ironic. But he said he wasn't trying to be hateful, and that's what he said. So that's your boy D-Jack, man. He's had some issues. He's always had something, little baggage with him, no matter where he goes. What do you got on D-Jack?
Poor D-Jax. What can I say? First of all, I've seen that quote. I've seen that exact. They showed a picture of it, so it looks like he's reading out of a book or a piece of paper or a statement or something. That's a screenshot. I've seen that thing floating around on Facebook for the last month. Okay, so it's out there. It's not new. I don't know if he just came across it or if he kind of knew it was out there and said, "Ooh, let me go back," and because I remember some of the things that it said. I think he got a little caught up and a little fired up after listening to Farrakhan speak. Okay. And without thinking it through, and with some of the things that can be looked at as admirable and strengthening to African American people, being mixed in with other wording that was offensive to Jewish people, he missed that part and only saw that part. And I believe that he got caught up in the quote unquote irony that Hitler was the one that said it. When in fact, after the statement has been researched, it wasn't really attributed to Hitler, somebody else. I don't know if somebody else said it and Hitler said it later or read it. I don't know exactly how that went, but it's not a direct Hitler quote. So
Hitler didn't originate
no,
this.
he didn't. You're right. That's what I'm looking for. He did not originate
Oh,
uh,
I
that quote.
didn't know
And as
that.
far as I know, he didn't even originate that thinking. Um,
Well,
but
all of these guys, the hater people copycat off of other hater people all the time. They hear something and then they'll take it and use it. I mean, right now we have an administration that's trying to call the Black Lives Matter movement a terrorist organization, and you've got that whole conservative right wing that's attacking it. They're communists, they're this, they're that. So you have a lot of things being said and a lot of things being repeated that have nobody's giving any context, nobody's giving any explanation. They're just throwing this stuff out there. So you really do have to be careful about repeating something and then trying to bring that into your logic or whatever.
absolutely,
People,
man,
man. So
absolutely, and that's what people do because they know there's a lot of folks out there that won't do the research. They either don't want to or don't know how, and will take stuff for face value as soon as they see it, and they'll run with it and retweet it and repost it and talk about it with their friends as if it's fact. And some folks will just look at it and go, "Wow, I didn't know that," and that's it, you know. So hey, I'm not surprised that government officials or whoever are coming out and saying Black Lives Matter is communist. Why not? Why not say it's communist? Who knows? I doubt it, but even I don't know. I don't believe it, but I don't know. Um, Marcellus Wiley on the Speak for Yourself show read their mission statement out loud and was like, I don't know about that right there. That line right there and those two words right there. I mean, he was kind of picking it apart. So, you can't, but, if somebody really wants to turn you against something or really wants to overemphasize something, then they're going to go to the extreme with what they say. They're communists, they're anti-white, they're socialists, they're fascists. They throw these words around to cast a bad light. Like you said, if they're gonna hate you, they're gonna hate you all the way. And it was foolish for him to do it. I don't think he's gonna get cut a lot of slack, nor do I think he should get cut a lot of slack because um, he's smarter than that. He's just smarter than that. If you read it, you can't read the part about black people are kings and black people should are the chosen ones and they're God's people and they're the original Jew and they're supposed to take over the world and the Jews know that, therefore they're going to oppress them and the Jews have a plan to As soon as you read that, you're supposed to go, oh, wait, this might be true, but I don't know if that sounds really bad. I mean, I know I'm not articulating this in a grand thing, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like you can't just put something out and say, yeah, look at this, and then come back and say, oh, I'm sorry, people are offended. I was trying to uplift my people.
you
That's
know,
not uplifting.
it's funny, man, when I look at supremacy around the world, I see it practiced on three levels: racial, religious, and economic. Where one group of people think they're better than someone else, either because of their race, because of their religion, you know, or because they got more money. And I see it all around the world. Many times when you've got the world leaders meeting, these are people that they're all supremacists. They might be Asian, African, Indian, they could be of any of the, any race, You know, they could be multiracial, but all belong to a particular religion where they think they are, quote, highly favored, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So I see it a lot. I'm anti-supremacist in general. I'm not very egalitarian. We're all created equal. We might be unique, but we are equal. And that's how I look at it. So whenever you start quoting anybody, I think many times if you don't have a philosophy in place, you tend to go in disparate directions
Right.
because there's nothing to ground you to a particular belief. So if you believe that all men are created equal, you know, and the whole thing about black kings and queens and all of that, to me, that began to be reactionary. It was a matter of black people attempting to rebuild themselves, you know, after being in those subservient situations for so many years, and then looking back and say, "Oh, wait a minute, you know, I'm, you know, direct descendant of a king."
Right. This is where I come from. This is our real, this
Right.
is our heritage.
And that's something to be proud of. And I think if we need that as a boost, that's all fine. It doesn't make you better than anybody else, though.
No,
That's, you know,
no,
so
but you know what?
I don't even like the whole king thing because I think that like in England, I'm like looking at them, I'm like, I'm so tired of hearing about the royals. I could care less that they're royals, you know, because again, they're no better than me. They just have more money, whether you think they stole it or earned it
Right.
righteously, you know,
Right.
however it is, that's really all it is. And now there's that whole money supremacy thing.
Right.
So, you know, I don't like supremacy at any level, and I don't like it from my own people, and I don't like it from anybody else's people, because we all, as far as I'm concerned, you know, there's only one race, the human race, and that's pretty much it. Okay, enough of D-Jack.
I got nothing else to say except well, let me ask you this because this is the big deal on talk radio because you know I listen to the Fanatic. The big deal yesterday and part of this morning was um, what are the Eagles as a team or as an organization going to do or not do to him because of this? Because the owner is a rich Jewish person.
And the general manager, I do believe, also.
Yes, Howie Roseman also is Jewish. So they run that organization, and I'm sure that hit them pretty hard. The thing is, people were calling in defense of Desean as if they shouldn't do anything or very little because, believe it or not, they hardly did anything to Riley Cooper some years ago, you know, in reference to his little shouting match he had at that concert, drunken shouting match at a concert where he's like, I'll fight all you N-words, you know. And from what I hear, he said it with his chest and he said it like it wasn't the first time he said it. You know, I saw the video. He was fired up. But anyway, to make a long story short, the Riley Cooper thing, I think what people fail to remember is, and they throw this in, that Michael Vick and Jason Avant and a couple other black players supposedly kind of came to Riley Cooper's defense and said that we shouldn't overblow this. He didn't really mean it. It was the heat of the moment. He had been drinking, blah, blah, blah. I believe he got away with a 2-game suspension that was leveled by the team itself. And then he got a contract extension, which a lot of people were like really upset with because I think they figured, well, 2-game suspension, he'll play out the year and then they'll get rid of him. Nah. But what people, you know, you had a lot of white people calling in saying, well, the black players, he had black players on his side. Nah. I think what they're missing is at that time, Michael Vick and Jason Avant were team leaders who kind of felt like the team was kind of on an upward trajectory and did not want to rock the boat or make this thing bigger or than it needed to be or get blown out of proportion where it messed up the team. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. But I think that's why they did it. If it was a little different situation, I think they'd have punched him in his mouth. But, you know, what I heard, there was a lot of players that were ready to come at him physically for that. There were people that were really, really upset, and he got off easy. But you can't compare that to this. That's the way I look at it. Why y'all coming up with that comparison simply because it's a matter of what did the Eagles do then and what are the Eagles going to do now? We're talking about apples and oranges, man. That's the way I look at it. People are saying he shouldn't get cut and he shouldn't get fined and he shouldn't take any long suspensions because they didn't do nothing to Riley Cooper. You know what I mean? So I just was wondering, what did you think about that?
First off, in terms, when you mentioned Michael Vick, I think Michael Vick was in an interesting situation because the Eagles really kind of did him a big favor. I mean, they opened up the door back into the NFL for him after his dog controversy.
When nobody else would.
When nobody else would. I think he was a bit beholden to the organization, and he was trying to be the good employee, and because of all of that, I think he, went on and supported Riley Cooper. And that's what the organization wanted.
Right.
And in this particular case, I think that they've come out strongly against what he said. There was no bones about it, and it's in this current racial awakening environment and things of that nature. I think that he did what they wanted, which was he made the serious apology video. And
attempt at a serious apology video. It's not very good.
Well, I think he was serious about it. I mean, he apologized.
I believe he's really sorry, yes.
Okay, so, my thing is, as long as it's authentic, then, And so, personally, I don't think they're going to do anything more. I think it's just going to be left alone. I don't really think he's going to get suspended and all of that kind of stuff. It wasn't like he was, it's not like he called people the N-word or whatever the N-word equivalent would be, when you're talking to other cultures and things of that nature. So, he apologized. B, they've already made their statement. And, we're in an environment where the Eagles are trying to be supportive of Black Lives Matter and of everything that's going on, and understanding people are in a emotional state, maybe a little more than normal. So we shall see. I don't think they're going to do anything. I think they're going to just leave it alone and, move on to the next controversy or the next thing that comes up.
Well, they're going to do something because they've already suggested, and I believe he's already relented to go into some classes, some sensitivity training type things.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that, some additional education.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, if you're quoting Hitler, and then you should know that I should leave that alone. And if you don't know that, then, there's a fourth grade teacher somewhere who will explain that one to you.
She can give you the basics.
Give you the basics.
Yeah.
Let's not start quoting Hitler around here, D-Jack. So, okay. Enough for D-Jack right now?
Yeah, I'm through with that, man. That's a mess.
All right, Benny, so we're going to get ready to wrap it up with our last topic. And this is, we always like to point out when someone in the football world does something good. Former Kalamazoo Central wide receiver catches 3-year-old boy falling from a burning balcony.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? Now, this is the challenge in my crazy mind. There was a joke that went around where there was a football player, famous football player, outside of a burning building, and the ladies hollering down, my baby, somebody save my baby. And she, he's like, okay, I got you later. She throws the baby down and he like runs over and he catches the baby and everybody starts cheering and he slams the baby.
Oh, that's not funny.
Yes. Yes, it is.
But in real life, a guy in Philadelphia did in fact catch a baby that was tossed to him from a burning building and then made a joke about Nelson Aguilar. So,
Right. I remember that.
yeah, talking about, I wish he could catch like that or something like that. So, but this guy, okay, well, this is great, man. He's a hero.
Hey, that's what you call a transferable skill, He went from football to saving children with that skill. Fingertip catching. He said that the child did injure his foot, but he did not injure his head, which was what he was mainly trying to do. So kudos to. And wait, I didn't. This at least.
Do we not have video? Do we have video of this?
No, this was just an article. Not unless this article has video.
Okay.
But the funny thing, I'm going to click on the article. Let's bring the article up real quick because I don't know this gentleman's name. And as opposed to just being the former Kalamazoo Central wide receiver.
Yeah, we need to, if his name is there, we need to put his name out. We definitely have to do that.
Phillip Blanks.
Phillip Blanks.
Phillip Blanks caught a 30-yard touchdown pass on the final play of the game to beat arch rival Lloyd Norris in 2009. So it's been a while since he did any real catching,
right?
At the college level. Now,
they say that's for the last 11 years. That was the biggest catch of his life by far. He's been in the Marines.
Yeah, retired Marine.
Oh, look, this is what I wanted to see. He made a diving catch of a 3-year-old boy who was dropped from the balcony of a burning third-floor park. That's exactly what I wanted to know. How high up was it? Did he have to dive for it? Did he keep his feet in bounds? And did he use his hands or his body? Yo, he's a hero. And I'm laughing. It's serious business, and I'm not making a joke of it, but it was successful, so we can kind of laugh about this a little bit. But make no mistake, this man is a hero. I love him. But I needed to know, did he go to the ground and catch with his body? Did he use his hands? Yo, that's important information. A 3-story drop. Now,
let me tell you something.
People wouldn't have the balls to make that catch. I'm throwing my baby out. I'll be like, no.
3-year-olds nowadays are heavy.
Yes.
Little like
Still, 3-year-old is not an infant. That's like the size of 3 footballs.
Look, the weight. I'm talking about the weight. These kids are eating well.
That's probably why he went to the ground and he had to dive to catch the kid anyway. It's a wonder he's not injured.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. Dude, I could see a bunch of people standing around looking at a fire and somebody coming to the balcony. Oh, my 3-year-old, somebody catch him. And not a whole bunch of dudes stepping up. A big old 3-year-old, 3 stories up. I'm like, do I really? I'm just saying.
You're making a business decision.
Yeah. I'm only saying that because I'm sitting here. I got time to think about it. In the spur of the moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah, out the crowd, you hear, for who? For what?
For what?
Oh, that's a shame.
I love it, man. I love it. I love football.
Football is life.
Football is life.
That's our motto. All right, we always run through our social media real quick before we sign off, Mr. Dickerson. Let's see if I can just get back to it real quick. I'm going to close this article here and remind people that on Facebook we are Ben and Barry on football at BNBOF. Feel free to come join us and comment on some of our craziness here. We are, we don't care about notifications. We don't care about that kind of stuff. Ben and Barry on Football is on Instagram, and we have all of that good stuff also there. We are also on Twitter. Yes, we are. We'll go to the homepage real quick there. I guess we are at the homepage. Where the heck are we? Anyway, here we go. That's what I wanted to show. At B&B on Football on Twitter. And like I said before, could Mahomes be the first 50 million? It's amazing. We ask these questions way in advance of anybody even talking about this stuff.
And then they happen.
And also, we are on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube or go to www.benandbarryonfootball, don't have a lot of subscribers yet, so help us out. Join, subscribe, and get your notifications. And, and when we put out videos and video clips, you'll be the first to be notified about that. All right, Mr. Dickerson, that's enough of that. Any final comments?
Well, sir, starving for sports right now. Baseball seems to be trying their best to get their stuff together. Basketball has, I don't know if you watched the basketball tournament lately, the TBT. That's kind of like the dry run for the NBA, I think. So they've been watching that. They're in a bubble. They're playing a tournament. Things have been pretty successful so far. I think one team dropped out. They had a couple of guys that tested positive, and I think they just pulled their whole team. Other than that, as far as I've heard, most of the people there are existing in the bubble pretty well, and they're playing good ball. Major League Baseball has had their issues, but I think they're coming to a point where in the next few weeks to sometime in August, they'll be able to get started. And the NFL seems to be chugging along like nothing really is going to happen, that they don't need preseason games, which, again, when you pose the question of if we're going to play under these pandemic type conditions, why should we play 2, 3, 4, 1, any games that don't really count? I can kind of see their point there. So they're right now talking about the season starting on, I believe it's September 10th, which is the normal start date. Fans or no fans is still up in the air. But again, real professional sports is on the way back, and I'm looking forward to it. But in the meantime, this Saturday and Sunday, Richmond, Virginia, UFFL East Coast Nationals. Knowles will be in the house along with some other PTTFL teams, being the UT Cobras, NWO, the Wolverines, the Tri-State Bullies. I hope like heck I'm not leaving anybody else out. If I am, I'm sorry. So other than that, go Knowles.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're so right about there not being anything on. I just wanted to note that when TV is playing replays of the Cornhole Championships.
Oh, geez, yeah. And that's, cornhole's really becoming a big sport. Like, people are running out buying these cornhole sets. Sheesh.
All right, say it again.
Go Knowles.